Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name's Crinji.
And I'm Dermie.
And we're here this show at EB Expo 2017, and there are so many games on show this expo, aren't there?
Yeah, look, it's a massive expo, and we got a lot from Ubisoft this year. Nintendo's got an enormous booth, mostly Mario Odyssey, which is
yeah, for sure. I mean, like they had a few other games. They had like Skyrim on Switch. They had a few other smaller things, but like Mario is like the big thing, and it's also got the biggest line at the show, actually.
Yeah, and they've clearly gone hard on the Switch now. They're pushing the Switch big time here. The Ubisoft games are probably the big AAA games that are here, other than Mario Odyssey. We got Far Cry 5, we got Wolfenstein, massive queues for them. And played a bit of Wolfenstein. So
yeah, Wolfenstein was good fun. AC Origins at the Ubisoft booth looked pretty good as well. And the crew, actually, I still am yet to try out. So I'm hoping that I get to go hands-on with that before we finish up at the show. But coming up a little bit later in the program, we've got a preview of Super Mario Odyssey at the Nintendo booth. We both got to have a chance to play through that one. We'll also do a bit of a roundup of what was at the show. But for now, we'll jump into what's the one game that you came to EB Expo for?
I came here for Sonic Forces.
So we'll jump straight into that preview now.
G'day, it's Dermie at EB Expo 2017. I've just had a chance to play Sonic Forces, and I got to play all three modes that were there, the new Avatar mode, as well as the 3D and the 2D Sonic modes. And firstly, a little bit about the new Avatar mode. Now, what I played today was very much like a 2D Sonic, and the Avatar you can have different selectable powers. The one we had was like a grappling hook homing attack. It was a lot like playing, imagine Sonic Generations, the homing attack that you can do in 3D mode, but in 2D mode. Went through a level with that. The controls are, I've got to say up front, fantastic. And when I was doing the homing attack with the grappling thing, it just worked perfect. The timing when I pressed, being able to go multiple enemies one after the other attacking, was just a joy to play. That's the Avatar mode. We didn't get to play with making our own characters, but it looks fantastic. There's three modes in the new Sonic Forces game, and 3D mode. If you play Sonic Generations, you're in for a treat because this is Sonic Generations, but everything is just a little bit better. It looks fantastic, it plays great, the levels seem to be very long, and again, you've got the homing attacks, and they were the most fun in Sonic Generations. And you can do multiple enemies one after another. You've got your slides you slide down, you've got your rings to go through. Everything is there if you play Generations you used to, but like I said, it's just so much fun, and the controls are just perfect. They're tight. Every time you press, it does exactly what you want to. It didn't slow down at all. It just kept going really fast, which is exactly what you want out of a Sonic game. Sonic 3D mode, it's like more of Sonic Generations, more of what you loved in that. It is fantastic. Now, at the end of the 3D mode, there was something that's going to make a lot of people very happy, or sad. Some people say, you run up, and at the end you meet Shadow. Shadow's in Sonic Forces. Oh, it's anyway, now you've probably played Sonic Mania, and if you're a Sonic fan, you should. It's great. And we played the 2D version of Sonic in Sonic Forces, and the main part they showed us here was a boss battle. Now, the boss battles in Sonic Mania are a lot of fun, they're very quirky. The boss battle in Sonic Forces is an enormous Eggman robot. Starts off being a small one and you go, wow, this is pretty easy to beat, and then suddenly this thing fills the screen. It is intense and it is a lot of fun. And this is where the game looks like another level above the previous Sonic games. 2D Sonic in the boss battle, fantastic fun. If you played Sonic Mania, you played 2D, but the boss battles in this are just another level again. So that's what I thought of Sonic Forces. It's coming out November 7th on pretty much every console. Have a look at it. It's great. It's got more of what you love from Sonic Generations, the best 3D Sonics, and it's got more 2D Sonic. Couldn't recommend it more. Grab it.
And so, yeah, Sonic Forces, you clearly came away with a lot of really good feels about it, but since we actually shot that preview, you've been speedrunning the game, haven't you?
Yeah, a bunch of us at the booth have been trying to get through the demo level they've got there as fast as possible. I got 1 minute and 7 seconds. Some guy beat me by about 5 seconds. I was pretty spewing, but it's good fun. It's great fun to play.
Yeah, I was thinking about Sonic Forces. I'd always say Sonic Mania because obviously that's been the most recent sort of Sonic release. Sonic Forces is still a little bit further away. But yeah, compared to Sonic Mania, like Sonic Mania really hit audiences well. Like there wasn't a whole lot that people had to complain about in Sonic Mania. Do you think that there's much at all to complain about with what Sonic Forces might bring in a few weeks' time?
No, and it's weird because it'll be a long time since Sonic fans have had 2 Sonic games in a row they can be genuinely excited about. And 2017 is probably the best year Sonic's had that I can remember. I mean, we got Sonic Mania, which is a retro-inspired 2D game, and now from what I've seen of Sonic Forces, I mean, this is Sonic Generations, but better, on steroids, so to speak. We are blessed. As Sonic fans this year, this is the best year for a long time.
Well, it kind of poses the question, like, where do you go from here? Like, do we have the 2 sort of mainline sort of series of Sonic games now? Do we continue making retro ones, and do we continue making sort of generation-style ones? Like, do you think that we'll see more experimental-style stuff? Not just, like, hit the sore points, but, like, the Wii Sonics, like the 7 rings, I think.
Sonic Boom was far better as cartoon. Look, Sonic Mania, wasn't that an indie development that Sega took on, which I think there's a lesson there for other large publishers. Like, don't throw away the fan stuff. Like, don't be so quick to shut it down, because, I mean, Sega have got something magical in Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
And they've still got the 2D in Sonic Forces. So Sega haven't abandoned the 2D. They're still doing that as well as the 3D. So, look, I think if they went down that path and just made more of what they're doing now, they're on the right track.
Well, we can only wait to see what comes next of Sonic Forces. We've got more coming up right after the break. Stick around to see more. Hello and welcome back to New Game Plus. My name's Crinji.
And I'm Dermie.
And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff we've seen at EB Expo, because there is actually a surprising amount. Even though the Gold Coast Convention Centre isn't quite as big as something like the Melbourne Convention Centre or the Sydney Olympic Park, not my favourite event location.
Glad it's back at Gold Coast.
Yeah, for sure. As far as what you've seen, you went to a Minecraft presentation, is that right?
Yeah, they've been running little competitions of battle mode in Minecraft, and I think Crucible level during the weekend. And the kids that have won that, they went into the arena, EB Arena, and they had a couple of groups play off in battle mode against each other, and the winner got an EB gift card and that, and a medal, which is pretty cool. So yeah, nice little event for the kids to come here. Basically, it was a very nice touch.
There are definitely a few other games as well, as far as the ones we had a little bit of time to get hands-on with. We had an opportunity to play a little bit of Monster Hunter World as well, I believe is what the new one is. It's coming out on PS4. We got to play it on PS4 Pro, and it's very weird to see a game that's typically on something like a PSP or a 3DS go from that to like a PS4. The controls felt really good, actually. It was probably the biggest point to come away from it. The area that we got dropped into is pretty much like a sort of an open exploratory sort of like jungle area, and what we had to do was pretty much track down a monster. We had to sort of look at little clues in the environment, like sort of like footprints and similar stuff on the ground, and then it's a matter of like trying to, because the monsters have a lot of health in Monster Hunter, that grind is real, trying to actually like really get into the monster and make sure that you can take it down. And there's a sort of a point in the demo where the monster ends up retreating actually back to their den, and you've got to chase them all the way back and track them on the way back there. But it was like, it looked pretty good, actually. It looked better than I was expecting. And yeah, Monster Hunter World, I'm still not quite sold on the grind, but it felt surprisingly good. Speaking of grind though, when are people going to stop playing Skyrim?
Well, it's like MAME. It appears on everything now.
We got to play it on Switch, actually. So how many times is it released at this point? Like the 4th or 5th time, I think, that it's come out?
Yeah, I'm holding on for the 3DS version. But it's it looked pretty good, actually, for the small console the size of the Switch. It looked very impressive. Probably, what would you say, Xbox 360 level?
Yeah. So like we got to play it on both the portable and on the TV. And on the TV, it looked pretty much exactly like a 360. Yeah. Which, the 360 version doesn't look bad, but like if you put it side by side with like the PS4 re-release or like a PC, right? Like it's hard to keep up.
Well, I mean, and that's going to happen, but considering the hardware, that's an amazing job. The thing that does though is that if games like that can be done, then hopefully we're talking things like Fallout 4 and that as well. So as a proof of concept on what they can do early on with the Switch, I think it's really promising. I think it really shows that, yes, it can do that kind of game, that open world game that normally does require real processing power and real memory on a tiny little console. It's not much bigger than a phone. I reckon that's great. Yeah. There were some downsides with it, and notably the water.
There were some bugs in the demo that we got to try actually, but like those bugs can happen sometimes even when you install a few mods on the PC, or even if you just have a janky PC. I've seen that water just sometimes like disappear.
Magic water.
It's not there until you're actually underneath it. But I don't know, like. Yeah, the proof of concept point that you bring up is actually a good one. Like the potential for Fallout 4 to come to something like the Switch, like that, I feel like that has or what like the next Fallout or the next Elder Scrolls, for that to come to the Switch, I think that's a really interesting proposition.
Yeah, because I mean this one's early. I mean the Switch hasn't been around that long.
Yeah.
So when you consider what it would have taken to develop the time to not develop but port Skyrim to it, they'll have better tools over time with that. They'll optimize things a lot better. The scenery still looked really impressive. The mountain ranges looked impressive, and that's the thing you get when you're going to an Elder Scrolls game. You look around and everything just looks magnificent, especially off in a distance. And I mean, you could see off into a bit of a distance too. So look, to me, I think it's really promising, and I hope it really is a sign of more to come as far as that goes. And look, Fallout 4. Look, maybe Fallout 3 would be nice to see, but Fallout 4, I'd love to see that come out in something like the Switch. I think it'd be great.
For sure. Something else that we had an opportunity to play a little bit of, the Xbox One X actually, it's in a few booths on the show floor. Like Ubisoft has it, and then obviously Microsoft has it as well.
Yeah, they've got the consoles marked with like prototype and stuff like that. Look, the 4K. I'm old, right? So to me, I look at things at 720, 1080 are much. But I'm not kidding. A 4K game, and I was looking at Tomb Raider, the recent Tomb Raider game. That looks stunning. That looks so good in 4K. I mean, I didn't think I'd care, but I care. I may spend money. It looks great. It really does.
Well, I mean, on the show floor, like behind us, you might be able to see Forza 7, and we have the opportunity to play that in 4K at 60 FPS, and like the sort of. I'm starting to become a little bit tired of it, the sort of tech specs part of how good is this port. But the reality is, like, it does look really good. And coming off the back of Forza 6 that I've only just only just picked up actually, there is a noticeable difference going from Forza 6 to Forza 7. On the show floor as well was Bethesda, and they had Wolfenstein 2 on the show floor playable, and they also had their developer from Machine Games available for an interview. So we had an opportunity to sit down for a chat with them.
Yes, my name is Jens Mattis. I'm the creative director at Machine Games. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus is the sequel to Wolfenstein: The New Order, and it's a direct sequel, so it picks up where the first one left off. And this game is about basically liberating America from the Nazi oppression. We had, when we started with The New Order, we always wanted to make like a trilogy. So we built in a lot of stuff in the first game that we could sort of cash in the sequel. So we had a very clear idea of where we wanted to take the story and the gameplay. We basically rebuilt the game from ground up with a new engine. So the first game was in Tech 5 and now we're in Tech 6. All of the gameplay system has sort of been reconstructed and iterated upon and so forth. We don't have a knife anymore, we have a hatchet. That leads to some more interesting, shall we say, physical results. It's always challenging to migrate to a new engine because everyone has to relearn the pipelines, but the power of Intech 6 is just, it's like night and day compared to Intech 5, so we're very happy about the upgrade. So we moved the timeline up to the 1960s, which is for us a very interesting time period to explore, and especially in America because there was a lot of things that happened culturally at that time, like civil rights movements and these kinds of things. So it's been very, just creatively, super interesting to explore, like how would the Nazis subvert these things and try to sort of slowly win the hearts and minds of the people.
You were part of a presentation earlier today. You were asked sort of about how to get into the industry of game development, and you brought up that your history was within the demo scene, within the mod scene. The demo scene, I guess, as far as like what that entails now compared to what it was perhaps when you were talking about it then, like it doesn't really exist.
Right.
Because it's not there, do you think that sort of mods are right now a good way for game developers sort of wanting to try and see what they can do in the space? Do you think that that's probably the best way to try and break in?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, when I started, there wasn't any schools. Like, there was no way you could get an education. I think mods are incredibly important because it allows you to work on game development even though you're not a programmer. Otherwise, you kind of have to be a programmer, or you have to know someone who can do the code side of things. Whereas a mod, you can, if you're interested in modeling or in music, whatever it is, something that isn't programming, that's the mods are a way of doing that.
Do you think that there's something to be gained by potentially bringing back something as niche or as specific as a demo scene? Because that, like, you speak to gamers now, I suppose, like a younger audience, they'd have no idea what that even means, right? Like, going back beyond something like the PlayStation 1, or more recently from the PlayStation 1, sorry, that hasn't really existed. Do you think that developers should try and be sort of more abstract, more experimental in some of the stuff that they're trying to create?
No, I think that's something that has kind of played out its function. It can still be interesting, I think, especially if it's like a competition or if it's like over a weekend at a convention or something like that. But in terms of the function it used to fill, I mean, you can do something a million times more impressive as a video now and put it on YouTube. So that sort of exploiting the hardware to its maximum is not really relevant in the same way anymore. Because back then, the best demos, it was like the only way you could see that type of content. But that's not really the case anymore because the whole ecology has changed so much.
Machine Games, kind of, a lot of the key staff from the studio came from a studio prior called, I believe it was Starbreeze. And as part of that studio, you guys were known for stuff like The Darkness, for example. What was it like, first of all, starting a new studio and working with a publisher like Bethesda, I suppose?
Yeah, it was a very scary time because we wanted to put ourselves in a position where we could make the best games possible, and that's really why we left Starbreeze, started Machine Games. But it was quite a long time before any deal was in place. So it basically meant that me and the other founders, we didn't have any income for like a year and a half. Which was incredibly scary, especially towards the end when I was like weeks away from having to sell the apartment, and like I had no idea how things were gonna work out. So that was incredibly intense and scary. But interestingly, Bethesda was always at the top of the list of the publishers we wanted to work with. So we were very happy that deal came together. And that's been an amazing ride, like getting to work on these games and with those people. That's really amazing.
This is obviously the second of a trilogy. Are you wanting to sort of really reinvent the wheel in what Wolfenstein 3 might be, or sort of build upon what the first and the second games have brought to market?
I think if it happens, it'll be a little bit of both. We have a very clear idea where we want to go with it, but it's of course it depends on how this one performs financially, because it has to make financial sense to make a third one, but we would love to do that.
Welcome back to New Game Plus. My name's Crinji.
And I'm Dermie.
And we also got to have a little bit of hands-on with Super Mario Odyssey, in addition to Sonic Forces and a few other things at EB Expo. You can find all of that coverage on our website and on our YouTube channel. Those details at the end of the show. But Super Mario Odyssey, yeah, interesting sort of demo that we got to play around with, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, it's traditional Mario where you run around 3D and that. The cap's a lot of fun. Waggles back, that was good. You flick the Joy-Con to throw your cap, and you can flick it again when it's at its limit of throw to throw it off the side, like a boomerang.
Yeah. And you had the in your demo, you had the sort of limited 2D section as well, didn't you?
Yeah, you kind of go into...
It was a pipe, wasn't it?
Yeah, you go into a pipe in the wall and you turn to a mini 2D level, which is kind of cool. Not sophisticated or great, but one of those things that makes you go, ah. So I enjoyed that.
I also had the opportunity to try out a different level. So we had 2 demos, the Sand Kingdom and the Metro Kingdom. Here's a little bit more about what that was like. Crinji here at EB Expo 2017. I just had the opportunity to play the Metro Kingdom demo of Super Mario Odyssey on Switch. It's coming out in a few weeks' time, but obviously I got to play a little bit of a cheeky sort of preview of what the game's looking like at this point. Dermie also had the opportunity to play the Sand Kingdom demo, and that was actually looking pretty good. But I didn't have as much of an opportunity to pretty much explore that area. That was far more open from what I had the opportunity to see. It was really vast in the space that you were able to run around in and sort of interact with the environment. It felt kind of sparse, I guess, in comparison to the Metro Kingdom demo that I had the opportunity to play. The environment was called New Donk City, which I thought was fantastic, but it pretty much is kind of a labyrinth in terms of the level design, the way that the level or the way that that world, that kingdom is laid out. And so this sort of, it was very conducive to going down different pathways and seeing, oh, what's down here, what can I find here, what can I interact with down here? And that felt really fun still. Like that's something that didn't really happen in Mario Galaxy or Galaxy 2. Didn't really happen a whole lot in 3D World either, actually. So it is kind of going back to what 64 was, Super Mario 64 back on the Nintendo 64. And so going down all of these different pathways, you're often sort of offered opportunities to sort of poke around. There are sometimes platforming challenges, which you'd expect for a 3D platformer. Typically, if the platforming challenges are, they actually do pose a challenge as opposed to just try and walk along like a thin piece of railing. You get through it sometimes. Well, I mean, if you're good, you get through it. And you're able to sort of collect moons. So in terms of what you're collecting, there are coins, obviously. There are like kingdom coins. I'm not entirely sure what the name of them was, but they're pretty much exclusive to each world. So the coins that we were getting in the Sand Kingdom were different to the ones we were getting in the Metro Kingdom. But then on top of that, we've got moons. And that was very similar to sort of the stars I felt out of something like Galaxy or out of 64. The thing is, though, I got quite a lot of them in a very small period of time. 64, you would typically go into a level with a single purpose, right? Like you would go in for that star and you would complete the challenge that it poses you. This felt more open in the sense that you go down a pathway, you get the moon, and then you're immediately thrown back, or you're not even like taken away from that level. You're just like, hey, you got a moon, congratulations. And then you just walk off to the next challenge. You can interact with the world in a way that feels less sort of disjointed than Mario 64 did, which I felt was actually really, really, conducive to exploring, because you're not having to sort of constantly go back in and out every single time you actually achieve something. Even Mario Galaxy was like that. In that the levels have, like, they're open and they're sprawling and they can vary from very open and kind of sparse to a little bit less open but very sort of dense. It didn't feel like it looked super dated. It felt fun, it felt fresh. And that's all I really needed to take away from it. I'm actually pretty keen to get my hands on Mario Odyssey when it releases in a few weeks' time. I believe it's October 27th on Nintendo Switch. So if you finish Zelda, how? But if you've also finished Splatoon and ARMS and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, definitely grab Super Mario Odyssey. I'm keen as hell for it, and hope you are as well. And that's pretty much a wrap for EB Expo 2017 here on not Surfers Paradise, it's Gamers Paradise.
Nice.
God. All of the coverage that you've seen in the episode tonight will be up online. You can find that on our YouTube channel and our website. What are those links?
Well, the website is newgameplus.tv.
And the YouTube channel is youtube.com/newgameplusTV. Make sure to follow us on social media as well. On Facebook, we are
New Game Plus TV. No dot. On Facebook and on Twitter.
For sure. So make sure to follow us everywhere. Check out all the additional content we have on our website and on our YouTube channel. But for now, that's all from us. My name's been Crinji.
And I'm Dermie.
And we'll see you guys next time.